Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Credit Chat. I'm Rod Griffin, Director of Consumer Education and Advocacy for Experian. This is Credit Chat. I'm here for the next 30 minutes or so to answer your questions about credit reports and credit scores and fraud and ID theft and all of those things that are so important to your financial health and your financial capability and ability to access financial services. So if you have questions, please don't be shy about asking. I'll do my very best to answer. Acumen Jay, thanks for joining and being part of the chat. I know I missed a couple. Ms. ZD4, always good to see you. Welcome back. And please do ask any questions you have. I'll be on a Facebook Live at 2:30 Central Time, 3:30 Eastern today with Jeff Richardson of Vantage Score talking about our state of credit survey. So don't miss that. You can find out more about that and our credit chats and this Periscope ex.pn/credit chat. And on our news blog, Experian.com/news. So, and just search our Facebook site. You can see us live talking about what's happened in the state of credit. Credit scores are up, which is good news. A couple of points over last year. Nothing extravagant, which is also a good thing, I think. We've seen a 2-point increase, which means that people are managing their credit well. Scores are at a high since, and that's kind of been the continuous refrain, which is good since the recession ended. Scores have been climbing, so that's a really good thing to see. But Jeff and I are going to talk about that and the state of credit, where we are, where the different generations stand, which is still interesting, which is really interesting. The fact that men have some work to do compared to women, because women's scores tend to be better than men's, believe it or not. Most people don't know that, but men are lagging behind and have slipped a little further, if I remember right. So we need to work on that. And so, guys, we need to do better. K Credit Repair, thanks for joining. Suggested _12, thanks for being here. Always good to have you check in. Always good to have you join. Karam, if I said that right, thanks for joining and being part of the chat today. It's a kind of soggy day in Texas today. Looking out my window, but ready for the sunshine to come back. But really going to be a perfect day to talk about our state of credit and to talk with Jeff and more about Vantage Score, how it works, and what some of the things happening there as well, what it is, and how scoring in general works. So that should be really informative. Tomorrow on Credit Chat on Twitter, we're going to talk about a game plan for improving your credit score. So another great conversation. Looking forward to that. That's at 2 o'clock Central, 3 Eastern. BMAX764, thanks for joining. Now, you have a serious question concerning your credit report. Are you accepting voice calls? Not voice calls, Acumen J, but if you tweet, I'm sure if you have a question, others have the same question, and that's what this is about, is sharing information that can help everybody. If you need to dispute information on your report, need specific assistance with your report, you can go to Experian.com/dispute. And it sounds like you already have a personal copy of your report. If you don't, you can get a free copy there. We'll give you one. And you can dispute information. You'll have a toll-free telephone number you can call and connect with a representative. If you need to dispute information, need to understand information, you can get up there that's specific to your report from a representative who can look at it as you're looking at it too. So that's really important. But here, if you have a question, if it's a general question and usually they are and can usually help and share. So that's what we want to do: is share knowledge, share information, share concerns, and what's working, what isn't. Samsari, what should when closed with negative remarks is over 7 years from the date the account became, guessing that says became delinquent. So what should you do if you have a closed account with negative remarks is over 7 years from the date the account became, was as late or delinquent? Not sure what the finish is, but if you have an account, remember that late information, if it's closed, the late information will fall off 7 years from the original delinquency date of the debt. If the account's reported as closed, there's no negative information. It stays for 10 years from the close date. That account will likely still stay for 10 years, but the late information will fall off. So after 7 years, so we'll keep the good stuff longer than the bad stuff. But negative information should fall off after 7 years from the original delinquency date, the date the account became late and that was never again current. Positive accounts with no negative history remain for 10 years from the close date. So two things kind of happening there. And it may, depending on the delinquencies, after 7 years, if it's been charged off as a loss, sold to collections, the original account and any subsequent collection will fall off 7 years from that original delinquency date. So kind of should give you a sense of what to look for. Update dates, most recent payment dates, all of those things have no bearing on when the negative information is deleted. So you hear lots of different dates in a credit report, but that original delinquency date, or the date of the delinquency, is the most important one. Uniquely been trying to build your credit score to find I have nothing hindering you. Been trying to open credit cards, but found that I need to deposit first. I also haven't been getting his FICO score for several years. Okay, so several things may be happening there. Don't know where your score is at this point, or how long your credit history is. If you have a short credit history, what we call a thin file, and maybe not for very long, so a couple year or 2 or 3, and you have fewer than 5 accounts, it may just be a matter of time. And so building that history, again, don't know where you're starting from with the score, and that can make a difference in terms of what needs to be done. It sounds like if you need to make a deposit, they're asking you to open a secured account because you're not qualifying for the credit card accounts. That suggests that maybe your scores aren't very strong yet. But if there's nothing in the risk factors that are, if it says everything's good from a risk factor perspective, you have a history, you're paying on time, it may just be an issue of time and how long you've had that history and how long you need to make those payments. If you have and I've seen factors that say credit history is too short or too little history, things like that. So that may be an issue. Look at those risk factors that you get when you get a score, and that will give you a sense. In order to build that history, you might look at Experian Boost as well. So Experian.com/boost, and you can give us permission to add your positive cell phone payments, your positive utility payments to help boost that score, which in situations like you're describing usually has a fairly decent impact. We're seeing on average with thin files about a 19-point increase. If you pay that cell phone or that utility bill through a checking account, we'll go ahead and capture that payment. So we're not looking at the entire account. We're just catching the payment that you give us permission to capture, pulling it in. So that can help improve your scores. If you're renting, talk to your landlord, see if they'll report your positive rent payments. You can search Experian rent payments and find our website. It explains how to do that and work with your landlord. They would need to report it to us or through a third party that reports to us. And there are several that we list on our website. So that's another way you can add to your scores to help improve them. And show that you're a good credit risk if you have a short history. So several things you can do to perhaps boost it. Senior score. So that's another thing. If you go to Experian Boost, we'll give you a free FICO 8 scores. You go through at the beginning of that process and at the end, so you know where you're starting. You can get a free score if you get the Experian app. You can see a free score from a FICO 8 score. So different ways to get that free score, but know where you're starting. Most important, when you get the number, also get the risk factors that go with that score. That'll tell you exactly what is affecting that score negatively, for sure. Sometimes they'll give positive factors. Usually they're negative. Even if you have really good scores, it can be frustrating because they'll say things like you have high balances on your credit cards when you have almost none, but that's what's pulling that score down a little bit. So they're always negative, the factors. It's what's negatively affecting the score. Get those factors, and that should give you a sense. You're 42 years old. So I've got a decade on you. So still young, doing well. And you've done both rote and faxed Equifax. So I'm with Experian, so I can't help with Equifax. I'm not sure what's going on there. Now you'll need to follow their instructions in how to communicate with them. With Experian, it's pretty easy. You can get to dispute information, to get information about that report, and to get that score. So it may be an issue with the lender. Perhaps, I'm not sure. But with Experian, you can get your free credit reports at annualcreditreport.com, one free every 12 months from each of the bureaus. So you can start there. That's the free annual report under federal law. Again, if you go to Experian and you need to dispute information, you can get a free report if you don't already have one in addition to that. Depending on where you live, you can also get additional free reports. So if you're in Georgia, for example, the state law provides for 2 additional reports. California, the same thing, get additional reports. So that's ways to get free reports. So check out the free reports and get a credit report, know what's in it currently. That's going to help so that you know exactly where you are, where you're starting. So I'm not sure what's happening with the other bureau, but you get that report from Experian, make sure everything's looking right and working like it's supposed to. That's a good place to start, and kind of go from there. The credit score is 824, Dome 194. You have nothing to worry about. You're in good shape. I have the Experian app. My current FICO 8 score has been kind of on the downward trend over the holidays. I'm at an 813 right now. So go figure. On some, I'm at 830, some on other different FICO score. So it just depends on the scoring system. So you're ahead of me at the moment. And with an 824, I don't worry about that. You know, if your scores are in the very high 700s, high in 800s and above, if you're managing your credit well, you're doing the right things. You may have increased your balance, and I'm very honest about what I know exactly what happened with my scores, because over the holidays when I traveled, I used a credit card for security reasons to make purchases and didn't use cash and paid it in full. That fluctuation, that increase in the balances caused my scores to dip a bit. They'll come back, and so just a evidence of use, right? And just part of what happens with scores, they go up and down. The higher your scores are, the more they'll come down and the more they'll go up in terms of points. The lower your scores, the less fluctuation you actually tend to see. Just joined, can you repeat info about phone bill? Does Boost look at history of future payments? So Main 33, Experian Boost is a service that's about a year old, that will be a year old in the spring. So if you go to experian.com/boost, you can give us permission at Experian to access the checking account or savings account that you use to pay your utility bills, so natural gas, water, electricity, and your cell phone bills, or even things like your cable television bills. So what we think was utility and telecom bills. And we'll be able to access that positive payment information from those accounts once a month, pull them into your credit report. So we would add for example, a natural gas account based on the utility provider, and a cell phone account, so you can have multiple accounts. And we will once a month capture that positive payment, so long as you've given us your permission, and add that to your report as accounts. And so we can add multiple account entries depending on, if you have a water bill and a natural gas bill and a cell phone bill, you could have 3 different accounts that are reported to us. And it's the positive payment information, and it's permission based. So if you change your mind, you can tell us, I don't want to do this anymore. We'll stop. When you go through that process, we'll give you a free FICO 8 score at the beginning, so you'll know where you're starting from. Once you've gone through that process, we'll help you identify accounts if we discover as we go into that process, the accounts you might be able to add in addition to the ones you tell us. You can say yes or no. And once you complete the process, we'll give you a brand new FICO 8 score right at the end to show what's happened. 2 out of 3 people are saying they see an increase of about 13 points on average. If you have a thin file, a short credit history, fewer than 5 accounts or so, we're seeing an average of 19 points. I had a person tell me they saw a 33-point increase the other day. So it depends on your history, of course, but it's all permission based, and you're in control of that information. We go back up to 24 months. We don't go forward. But we will continue to, once it's there, each month we'll add that new positive payment as you make it, so that it, just like a credit account, each month that positive payment's then reported to your credit report and continues to grow that positive history, and should, we believe, help improve your scores over time. So that's what Experian Boost is all about. It's helping particularly people who are beginning to build credit for the first time, who maybe have had some issues and are recovering, and are trying to gain access to traditional kind of credit accounts and financial services and improve their credit score so that they can actually save money and have better financial opportunities. So that's what's really driving it. It helps the lenders determine that you'd be a good risk if before they couldn't. So it helps people gain access to better financial resources, perhaps breaks that cycle of predatory lending, high cost credit. So that's what it's all about. Can I elaborate on the data breach settlement? No, because that was with Equifax. I'm with Experian, so we're a competitor. I don't know why my company chose to start and have a change, make its name similar with an E, but they did. So that's the way that one goes. But I'm with Experian, not Equifax, so I can't really speak to what that settlement's about, or where it is in process, or what those agreements are. It's outside of my scope. Got a 940 good, depends, and you can have a 940. There are scores that go pretty high. The FICO auto scores go to 920. Not sure about a 940 where you are, or what we call model risk score that is. Like Cheese 4436, thanks for joining. How much time before the increase is realized? If with Experian Boost, it's immediate. So that information is added to your credit report. We can show you a score that if it were calculated with that new information right then. So if you applied for credit, a lender used a FICO 8 score, it would be what they would see, and that's what your score would do. So it's truly an instant improvement for most people if they add those accounts. Now there are some, like two, as I said, 2 out of 3. So 1 in 3 may not see an improvement at all, or they might see a decline. It just depends on their history. But 2 out of 3 see improvement. So, and you would see it right away. So it's instant. H.W. Brooks, 1911, thanks for joining. If you're just jumping in, I'm Rod Griffin. I'm Director of Consumer Education and Advocacy for Experian. This is Credit Chat. I try to be here Tuesdays and Thursdays, 1:30 Central, 2:30 Eastern, to have a conversation and a dialogue with you about your credit reports and your credit scores, to answer your questions about how they work, what you can do to get help if you need it, what to look for if you're trying to improve your scores, tools that are available to help you improve your history, what to do if you're a victim of fraud, all of those kinds of things that your credit report can play a role in helping you become more financially healthy, more financially successful. It can protect your credit history and your finances as well. So please feel free to ask any questions you have. I'll do my very best to answer. And if you have a question, I know other people do as well. And we want to share that information and help gain information and knowledge from each other. And that's what it's really about. Does the increase only apply to your Experian score? So it would the account information is only added to your Experian report. So it would only affect scores that are calculated using your Experian credit history information. And that's the limitation right now. Most lenders do use Experian reports and all 3 reports, so you would see that difference when you apply and they get that information. So that's so yes, it's an Experian specific service. Boss Love, thanks for joining, and always happy to share. That's what we're here. K Credit Repair, thanks for joining, and our Twitter chat tomorrow should be a lot of fun. If you go to ex.pn/credit-chat, you can learn more. We're going to talk about having a plan to improve your credit score. So it's going to be all about credit reports and scores. I'll be there and several other experts and my colleagues from Experian. So that should be a lot of fun and a great chat to have as well. So check that out. And again, ask any questions you have. Don't be shy, because I know other people do. Main 33, glad to share. And the whole idea is to help people here understand credit reports and scores. They should not be a mystery. And that bothers me more than anything when people tell me it's this mystery and I don't understand it. I don't know what's there. And I don't know what the lender's going to see when I walk in. And that shouldn't happen. You should know exactly what they're going to look at, know what they're going to see, know what scores to expect. You may not get exactly the same number, but you should be able to know that you're going to have good scores and you'll be able to qualify and be able to walk in with confidence into that lender and say, hey, I know I'm going to qualify. Here's what I want to apply for. And within reason, you'll be able to get, you know exactly what the response will be. And that's what we want to have happen. We want you to know what's there. We want to make sure that we're working with you to help ensure that our information is accurate, that it's complete, that it's there to work for you and to facilitate those transactions. Credit Repair, quickest way to 750. It's all relative. Patience, consistency, and common sense is really. So utilize Experian Boost and other tools that are available to you, like rent reporting if you're renting. That can help. But otherwise, it's a matter of keeping your credit card balances as low as possible. So if you have credit card balances, pay them down, reduce them. If you can pay them off, that's even better. So pay them in full every month. Make sure that you make your payments on other debts and your credit cards on time every single time. If you do those 2 things, eventually you're going to hit that 750 number. But it takes time too, because credit scores are looking at your behavior over time, not just where you are today. So if you had some issues, it's going to take some time to catch up and for that negative information to come off your report. So it's important to start making those positive payments, have that positive information, so that as the negative information is deleted, the positive information remains and offsets it. The other thing to know is that the further in the past that something negative happened, a late payment, for example, the less effect it has on your credit scores. So the older it gets, the less important it becomes. So if you can catch up and keep making those payments on time, eventually that late payment, that negative information is going to stop having an effect. The other thing to keep in mind too is be careful and thoughtful about how you apply for credit. If you get pre-approved offers, that's great. It actually opens the marketplace for you, gives you choice, and that can be a good thing. The important thing is to say no. If you get them, doesn't mean you have to apply. If you get an offer and it looks right for you, absolutely take advantage of it if it has incentives or lower interest rates or terms that are going to be beneficial. But otherwise, say no, and that gives you control and power over the credit you have and use, and can take advantage of a wider marketplace. But no is the most powerful word in credit. No to things that you don't need. No to impulse buys. No to making charges you don't need to. And sometimes that's the hardest word to say. So really difficult. Let me scroll back. Show your RSVP. So yeah, we're giving away two $50 Amazon gift cards tomorrow on Credit Chat. So 2 o'clock Central, 3 Eastern. Go to expn.creditchat or ex.pn/creditchat. I'll get it right to learn more about that. Hope to see you there. So yeah, no fast way, no quick is relative, but time is the key. Florida Cop 911, son has 3 accounts he paid off, wants to close the accounts, only been open less than a year. I would leave them alone. And if you have accounts, credit card accounts, and they're open and he's building his history, just because they're open doesn't mean he has to take on debt or use them to make lots of purchases. It's a good idea. If he only wants 1 or 2, that's fine. Maybe close the other 2. Scores will dip because you lose the available utilization. So if you're building that history, I would recommend to keep them open. Make a small purchase once every month or 2, turn around and pay it in full. And I mean, $10, $20, make that payment in full. And then you're not carrying a balance. You're not taking on debt. And I always say credit's a financial tool. Debt's the financial problem. And so you don't want to have debt. If you're paying that balance in full, you have credit working for you, but you're not taking on debt. That's what's so important. And so if he has those cards in that activity, that's going to help him build his history, improve his credit scores over time without taking on debt, to use that to his advantage, because there will come a time when he may need to apply for a larger purchase, maybe qualify for a rental, for example, a lease, and want to pay a lower security deposit. A credit history can help with that. Utility setups, he'll need to see a credit history. So I want to keep that history. So if he has the accounts and uses them to his advantage, makes a small purchase and pays them in full every month so that there's no debt being taken on, and he's using it as a tool to be there in the future, they can work to his advantage. And that's what, when I talk about using credit as a financial tool, that's exactly the example of what it would be. I would leave them so he's building that history. You don't have to use them. So that's your choice. That's that no thing. Just say no if you don't want to make impulse purchases. FICO 10 begins this summer. Any thoughts? I don't know much about FICO 10, and I'm still learning. It's interesting, but it's also one of those things that the scoring companies like FICO and Vantage Score and others periodically update their credit scoring systems to reflect changes in the marketplace, new kinds of data and alternative data that's available to help predict risk better. Generally, changes like that help more people qualify, and that's a good thing, I think, because it helps lenders identify when someone's a good risk. It helps them manage risk better. But I really don't know a whole lot about them yet. Experience information will be used in the calculation. That's not changing. That's, as will the other bureaus. So they pull the information in and calculate the score. I don't know, as I said, a lot, actually very little, probably about as much as everybody else at this point, about the scores themselves, the algorithms and models. So don't know much at this point, but I'm going to watch. I think it'll be interesting. Little buddy, thanks for joining. Mama Dalmalik 8, thanks for joining. Approved for $45,000 to buy a car. It's great to be approved. Doesn't mean you have to accept it. So, keep in mind, if you get a $45,000 loan, you have to pay back that loan. That's going to be a big car payment. The average loan today for a new car is about $32,000. So that's above average, and in terms of debt, above average usually isn't good. So it means you have to pay a lot more. Your FICO is 799. Look, you're in good shape. So keep doing what you're doing, little buddy. But if you're approved for $45,000, things to think about. What is the interest rate they're asking you to pay? Is it the best available, or is it something more? How long is the term? Because the terms for new cars are extending now. They're upwards of 7 years in many cases. So do you need to take on that much debt? What's your overall financial situation look like? Might be perfectly fine for you, for others not so much. So it depends on your situation, but it suggests that you're doing okay with your credit. CQB_med, thanks for joining. And Fort Cop, glad to help. Is FICO 8 reliable? Absolutely. I think it's the most, as I say, the most commonly used score today. Vantage Score is a competitor. They're widely used as well. There are lots of different scores out there that lenders use. FICO 8's very predictive and gives lenders, helps them manage risk very effectively. And you can get a FICO 8 score from Experian if you sign up for our app, or if you go through Experian Boost, and we'll give you two actually, one at the beginning, one at the end. So lots of things you can do. Ms. Zini4, thanks for joining, little buddy. $45. Is that the loan you're? I'm not sure where the $45 came from, but if that's what you're approved for, that's good too, I suppose. But it's all a decision that you have to make, right? As to how much you're gonna use, how much you want to use in terms of credit, how much debt you want to carry, why you're going to carry that debt. We always talk about, if you're going to make a credit purchase, you're going to take on debt. I always tell people that with me, they need to keep a sharp stick and poke, and I'll respond. But don't jab at other people. No, we're here to learn, right? So poke at me, that's fine. But it's still a serious conversation. It's about making those decisions. What's right for you in your overall financial picture? Understanding that credit should be a financial tool, that debt's a financial problem. Anytime you're thinking about borrowing money, whether it's using a credit card to make purchases or buying a car, buying a house, you have to think about when you're going to pay it back, how you're going to pay it back, what is it you might have to not buy, what purchases might you have to delay until you've paid down that debt or paid it off. So it's always a trade-off. And credits, it's a balance about how you use it and how you use debt. You can use debt to be a very effective financial tool. Businesses do it all the time. They will use debt. They'll get a loan to buy capital, so equipment, like trucking companies may buy their trailers or their trucks using credit, because they're pay a low percentage rate, and they can invest their cash and make a higher return. So they actually use someone else's money so that theirs can make money. So think about credit in that way, kind of like a business does, and it can work to your advantage. So that's what that's all about. Have a couple more minutes. I'm going to have to jump off right away, right on time today. I'm going to be on Facebook Live with Jeff Richardson at 2:30 Central. So join us there. We're going to talk about our state of credit. Jeff Richardson's with Vantage Score, and we looked at the average Vantage scores across our country over last year. Found that there's an increase of about 2 points, which is a good thing, and really some interesting findings around where the best scores are, who has the best scores, men or women, what generations have higher scores, what's happening in those generations. So lots of interesting things that we're going to talk about. So hope you can join us there on Facebook Live. If you've not been on Credit Chat before, thank you for joining. Tomorrow, 2 o'clock Central, 3 Eastern, we'll be on Twitter, and we'll be talking about making a plan to improve your credit score. So that should be a lot of fun. I'll be there along with some really strong quality other experts who know probably more than I do. And so we'll talk about what we can do there on Twitter. Hope you can join that conversation. You can learn more about both at ex.pn/creditchat. As I said, I try to be here 1:30 Central, 2:30 Eastern, Tuesdays and Thursdays, to answer your questions about credit reports and scores. So appreciate everybody being here. If credit repair companies remove certain items from your report, will they show up again? Ms. Montu, great question. The thing to know about credit repair is this. There's a law called the Credit Repair Organizations Act, CROA, C-R-O-A. It specifies what a credit repair firm must do before they can take a penny from you. So, for example, they have to provide a written contract. You have 3 days to withdraw from that contract. They have to fulfill all of the terms in that written contract before they take any payment whatsoever. They cannot promise to remove accurate negative information from a credit report. If it's accurate, even though it's negative, it's going to stay. They cannot ask you to falsify information, like change your identity, things like that. That could get you in trouble too, because it could be considered credit fraud. There are a lot of things that they must do. So know what your rights are. What the Federal Trade Commission said is you cannot pay someone to remove accurate negative information from the report. If information is removed, the scheme is you pay a credit repair firm, they will send letters of dispute, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of them, knowing that we have an obligation to take that dispute, send it back to the source of the information, usually a lender, and the lender then has 30 days to respond to Experian and that dispute. If they don't respond within 30 days, we are obligated to remove that account. However, if the lender comes back to us and says, we missed that date, but it's still accurate, it should be restored to the credit report, it will come back to the report. We send a letter to the consumer saying it's been restored and returned to file. And so it comes back. So that scheme and that law was changed by the federal government early 2000s, if I remember right, late 1990s, early 2000s, because they recognized that scheme. That's an effort to remove accurate information and allow lenders to restore that information. So, that's usually the scheme. And you can dispute information for free. It doesn't cost you a penny. You can go to Experian.com/dispute and dispute information at no cost. So there's nothing they can do for you that you can't do for yourself for free. That's my perspective. So thank you all for joining, being part of the chat today. I'm jumping off, getting ready to go on Facebook Live here in about 30 minutes. Hope to see you all there. If you're just joining, I'm signing off. Sorry, I'm signing off. I'm Rod Griffin. I'm Director of Consumer Education and Advocacy for Experian. This is Credit Chat. I try to be here 1:30 Central, 2:30 Eastern on Tuesdays and Thursdays to answer your questions. So I'll be back Thursday. Join us tomorrow on Twitter to talk about building a plan to improve your credit score. So learn more at ex.pn/creditchat. Thank you all for being here, and I'll talk to you all very soon. Take care, everybody.